right. And welcome back
to
the Vibes Championship of the Americas Top 8. We are
Top 8.
live here in Hartford, Connecticut.
My heart is still pounding from that last match.
It was unbelievable.
Crazy.
For those who had tuned in, oh my goodness, Tom with the Bizbunk had an incredible ending that here in the booth we thought we predicted he had totally got lost in the sauce and had not found his way out.
But really, he got lost in the saucies and came back.
And we had no idea that he could pull it off. He pulled out the last card of his... We're not going to get into it. Let's jump into the top 8. Let's start with the games that we're going to play here. We've already gone through the bracket, but this is the top 8. We've got 1 versus 8. That's Tom from the last match who is playing Guy. We've got Brian, James, Jonathan, Rosum versus Jonathan Suarez, and Travis versus Cody.
So here's kind of what's going to be happening here,
okay,
right?
Tell us what we've got.
We're going to look at Jonathan Rosum versus Jonathan Suarez, Bizbunk mirror, and a Jonathan mirror at that. So quite the exciting matchup. I mean, you got to think we're going to watch some Bizbunk mirrors. This is top 8, and I really think this is where we're going to see the strength of some of the better Bizbunk players. There's no hiding from a stronger deck in a mirror match, right? This is not going to be. This is a game of skill. This is a game of decisions. I'm also excited, and I got to say, again, you might be Switzerland here, but I'm not. Here, I'm excited for Guy. I'm rooting for the underdog here. We have 1 green aggro, 1 yellow Yum Yum, and the rest of the top 8 is Bizbunk. So I want to see one of the non-Bizbunk decks take it down. You got to think all of these players have faced a lot of Bizbunk to get to this point.
Absolutely.
They have a plan. Let's see what it is.
Absolutely. So let's cut over to 2 versus 7 here. Let's do the Jonathan mirror match and see what we've got running here. So we're going to start with Rosum, and we're going to refer to them as their last names. We've seen a version of this deck a couple of times before. Spencer, could you talk us a little bit about what makes this version different from
We've talked a lot about Yum Yum. There's a couple of things here. We've got 4 Whats. Interestingly, we have 4 Gothams, 4 Not a Rods, no What a Twists.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
If this caffeine matchup ends up coming up here, less relevant. The other thing that's really interesting here is only 2 Adventure Squad. Really light on the removal package. We've got 2 Popcorn Penguins, but we've got no inspiring stories. And just kind of a generally reasonable Bizbunk list. But it's interesting to see. I think Tom's list we saw 2 Whats, 4 removal. Here we see 2 removal, 4 What. So this is definitely a What-heavy version of this deck. And not a Rod anymore. Definitely tuned for what the meta ended up being, although we did have 1 caffeine deck make the top 8.
Absolutely.
Let's cut over to the other deck.
Okay, so moving on, we have our other version of this. This is going to be Suarez's version of this deck. We've got a lot of the same cards, obviously, but Spencer, tell us a little bit about what makes this one different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a very, very similar list. We've got to start with there. Same taste in saucies. But here we've got 4 Adventure Squads. We've got 3 Whats. We've also got only 2 Penguin Who Breaks the Fourth Wall. So kind of an interesting dichotomy. These lists, though, I got to say, are very similar, right?
They're pretty similar. A couple of things that stand out to me include that this one has 4 popcorns, which I think is going to be interesting. That's something that I'm sure was really helpful in getting this deck to this point. Actually, we know it for a fact. We've seen Suarez play. But we've also got a little bit more heavy on removal in Adventure Squad 2. So that's 2 different versions of a removal card that are running 2 more of in each slot. So that's something that we definitely want to keep an eye out for here, especially since this is a deck that has an engine, but it has an engine that needs a card in play, and that card is hittable with popcorn very easily, and certainly with Adventure Squad in most cases. Now, again, Adventure Squad, you need something that's lower than the vibe of the Penguin you're getting rid of, so Adventure Squad is maybe not as good in this matchup, but it's certainly going to be something here that is going to get some removal happening.
But you know what? Let's just jump into this match. I think it's going to be exciting to see. Let's just dive in.
Let's do it. Okay. Looks like we're getting ready to start us off. We've got Rosum here, has a couple Bashful Swordsmans and a Bismo to start us off. Where we love doing these little peek at the hand things. It's so difficult to see what everyone's got, but we do know that Suarez has the engine. So Suarez here already starting off strong. He's got his Penguin Who's okay and has the Ascending Penguin in hand.
I mean, so look, Bismo PhD candidate is actually a very reasonable play early on. You need that Purple Pudge. We saw how valuable in that last match with Tom that Purple Pudge is in this deck, but you've got to think that as the Bizbunk player, you would rather have Penguin Who's okay as your 2-drop. That is one of, if not the most powerful cards in this deck, just getting your engine going.
Absolutely.
Because Bizbunk is all about getting cards in your ice, and we have 1 to none currently.
Sure thing. If I'm Rosum here, I can't imagine that I don't have a tinge of envy looking at my Penguin who's okay that I know is in my deck on my opponent's side of the field. Of course, having that purple pudge is necessary here, but as we went over earlier, Rosum's were covering a little less on the adventure squads here, which is a little less than of that purple action burning through there.
Ooh, and a Brainy Penguin gets the first bunkus in the yard. I mean, in terms of card efficiency per turn into the yard, John Suarez not playing anything this turn really hurt his chances, unfortunately. Not hurt his chances, but really decreased the advantage he had going into this round. One of the other challenges here, we spoke about how relevant Gotham is in this matchup. Gotham, very good against Penguin who's okay, and not very good against a Brainy Penguin that's already entered play.
Absolutely. So, looks like Suarez is going to take his turn here. He's got, if my eyes don't deceive me, he has 2 copies of Ascending Penguin here, which is really going to be nice, especially
Perhaps
since we know that
even 3.
Rosum's... Oh, really?
He's
you think you
Ascending
saw a third?
Penguin up. And that's where you... but opts the Popcorn Penguin. I think this is a pretty heads-up play. I believe that our players are playing with each other's deck lists. I don't think Inspiring Stories in either of these decks.
Sure, they were not, actually. Neither of these decks has Inspiring Story, which means no one's going to be able to get a leg up on Popcorn. Jonathan Suarez getting that out early, well, not necessarily early, right, because Rosum here he's going turn 4. He has the chance to play a Popcorn here as well. But remember, Jonathan Suarez entering here with the Baron on his side, which, Baron's never changed hands yet this game, but having that Baron all the way from the start of the game means that he gets that choice first, even if Rosum had the Popcorn.
Popcorn Penguin in response.
Yep, but no Popcorn in response, so Suarez is safe here. So Rosum has, kind of submitted that he's going to lose at least a Penguin here, and now Suarez gets to, take this next turn and, actually, first he's going to do a little shuffling around to get that bunkus into his ice, which is, of course, critical here, so he's putting another piece in the puzzle. And when Suarez takes his turn here, he has the choice, if he wants to play that Ascending Penguin.
And an important difference here that we didn't note, I believe Suarez has 4 Popcorn Penguins really coming to play here. The Gotham getting the Popcorn Penguin, it looks like, unless there's not a rod anymore here and that's really what the not a rods are for, is for protecting Ascending Penguins against Gotham. But we talk about some of these interesting and complicated decision lines when you're playing this Bizbunk deck. It's not obvious to me that you play Ascending Penguin there. Those, the Bismo and the Brainy Penguin in play seem somewhat innocuous. But Suarez opting to go the Popcorn Penguin route over the Ascending Penguin.
See that Gotham he played right there? That's going to be crucial for us later on in the game, I'm sure. One thing to note is that Suarez also kind of pulled out that removal from Rosum's rods there by getting something that just had to be answered. That
Absolutely,
Popcorn had to be answered.
We talked about how not a rod anymore is protection for Ascending Penguin from Gotham. Popcorn Penguin getting Gothamed is also protection from your Ascending Penguin getting Gothamed. And if you're in Suarez's seat, you care a lot more about this Ascending Penguin sticking around than you do about that Popcorn Penguin sticking around in this matchup specifically. Not in all matchups, but in this one for sure.
Absolutely.
And what a heads-up play by Suarez, baiting out the Gotham from Rosum. And, so Suarez, with priority here, gets to act first, plays the Study All Night. We don't know what that means about what Rosum had. Rosum could have another Gotham, for example, for the Ascending Penguin is letting this stack resolve to make the next stack. We'll have to see kind of what goes on here, but absolutely looking like it is in... I mean, if I'm a Bizbunk player, this is where I want to be. 3 bunkuses in the yard.
Totally. So this is something I want to quickly touch on here because we haven't talked about it yet, is that this is a game all about fuel, right? You start with an empty tank, nothing in the ice, and this is a game about getting enough stuff in the tank such that you can get things moving. You have your Ascending Penguin that's your, that helps you get stuff into the tank, and then you have that spark of playing that bunkus. Now, your fuel mixture is something that you determine partially in your deck list, but a huge amount of it is up to chance. Look at Suarez's ice and count the number of penguins in that pile. It's just an unbelievable number. That's fuel that he'll use to play the bunkus. But once he gets that bunkus out and he's Ascending Penguin in play, that's how much more fuel he's going to get. And it's just an astounding number. I think that's one of the things that when you build a Bizbunk list, I mean, you've got to keep that in mind, but also there's a certain amount is just feel and playing it up to chance. And I think that Suarez looks like he's just struck gold here.
I mean, the other thing you've got to think about here, right? Both players last turn played Study All Night, but Suarez had a Penguin who's okay in play. And so he got 4 cards in the yard to his opponent's 2. You've got to rather be in that position than the other one. Now, that being said, we know this Bizbug deck can win on its turn. But it needs a fair amount of pudge to do that, at least 6, because you need 4 for the Ascending Penguin, 2 for the Bismo, and with Rosum having used one of his rods to got him, he's behind on the rods as well.
Sure.
Now, Suarez is not only rod rich, but it looks like Ascending Penguin with 2 Ascending Penguins in play, 3 bunkuses in the yard.
Oh, man, what an opening.
If I were to be playing in this game, I know which seat I'd be wanting to sit in.
Absolutely. It's pretty unbelievable how quickly Suarez has managed to pick this up. And look, a certain amount of it comes down to what you've got in your deck. Again, had this talk about what kind of stuff you can get into your ice. You look at Rosum's, that's a whole lot more actions per card. But also, Suarez getting that popcorn out before it was just so critical, really leaning into it and knowing that Rosum's probably got the Gotham, probably has a couple of pieces there. Okay, we get a quick glance here. We look like we're going to probably see that.
Rosum with that purple Mega Penguin.
Right, he also has Adventure Squad, and he has Penguin that breaks the 4th wall. That's probably going in the ice. He's got the Study All Night.
Now, very relevant here, Adventure Squad, and I think this might be why we see Tom Gervasio not play this card. If he attempts to Adventure Squad his, say, Bismo PhD with an Ascending Penguin, and Suarez got him in response, he gets blown out.
That's a great point. Really, really great point. And in a game that's this close, you just can't afford to get 2 for 1. That's a really awesome point that I think that we didn't touch on earlier and really must be critical for this matchup. Rosum not having a single Ascending Penguin in that hand must hurt really, really bad. I really feel bad for the guy. That's going to be tough. And look, Jonathan Suarez coming in at 7th and Rosum's in 2nd. Oh man, this is
to be in those 2 places, these players have run hot all weekend. They're both qualifiers for the World Championships.
Yep.
These are players we will be seeing more of. And not only that, look how beautiful Ascending Penguin looks in play. I don't know that I've seen 2 of them next to each other that long because they don't usually survive this long.
Sure thing.
But think about how relevant early in the game Suarez playing that Popcorn Penguin first instead of playing the Ascending Penguin, baiting the Gotham. That was the play of this game. That is the game that made this happen. It's really a very relevant but small decision, and that's when I talk about a player who has been playing a lot of vibes. This is where Suarez, with more experience, is gonna have things. Now, that being said,
Rosum's got his head in his hands.
He's got it. It's the whole title of the deck. We've got Bismo, we've got Bunkus, but this is not how you want to see them.
Totally. So Suarez has 2 things here. So he's more fuel in the tank, and he has this thing that kickstarts the engine. Now, Rosum's missing half of his engine here, but he can still get that other half out. And now, a Bunkus in play is certainly better than nothing at all. A Bunkus is still a Penguin that can still win through a traditional line.
But is this a 2-vibe Bunkus?
But this is a Bunkus that is only 2 vibe. This is going to tie the vibe check Bunkus. It couldn't possibly be lower and still be in play. So.
Now, an interesting thing here, I think Suarez probably could have played a Bunkus from his yard, similarly had a 2-vibe Bunkus, opted not to do that this turn. Are we going to see the Gotham in response here? Funny enough, regardless of which choice was made, and I guess it had to be,
we get the flicker of the Gotham in the rods. Of course, Suarez.
The play that we talked about before, why this is relevant. And, again, these are the types of things, if you just went online, you looked at a deck list, and you picked the canonical deck list, you're going to be playing Adventure Squads. We see Tom Gervasio playing Have a Philosophical Debate, a card that does not see play in many decks, but if he wins this weekend, I think it will see a lot more play.
There is exactly the play we talked about.
The reason why you might not want to play Adventure Squad.
Now, what's so interesting here is Jonathan was willing to lose his Bunkus in this play anyway, because that Bunkus was going to lose itself to Adventure Squad. He was going to ice somebody, but
it is very interesting that he chose Bunkus over Bismo.
Right, totally. Super interesting.
The funniest thing, too, is even if he had an Overwhelm with Knowledge in his yard, in his ice, for example, and he iced a rod of his to make the Bunkus bigger to get around the Gotham, then his own Adventure Squad would ice his Bunkus because it would be bigger than the Ascending Penguin. Remember, Adventure Squad, in this case, even if it had resolved, would have iced them both.
Right, yeah. In this case,
because
they both
go
down.
Vibe.
They both go down. Now, do they have... this is a deck list question here, and I'm hoping our team can help
I've got the deck
out.
list pulled up in front of me.
What is the ratio of not a rods here? Do either of them run it?
Both of them run 4.
Okay, that's good to know. That's something that might be relevant.
Certainly, but again, not an out for Jonathan Rosum in that situation.
No, it's not. He could have not... Now, walk me through this. What if the not a rod was used on the opponent's Penguin?
He could have. It is an out. My apologies. It is an out. Not a rod could have not a rodded the Ascending Penguin, making the Adventure Squad. But who knows if Suarez had a not a rod of his own? Another out here, even besides the Gotham, is not a rod. again, one of the other weaknesses of Adventure Squad over Overwhelmed with Knowledge.
And so now we're just counting cards. So we're at the point where he's playing
6.
stuff. He gets that purple mega, 2 Adventure Squad or 2 Ascending Penguins.
You got to think the purple mega if the purple mega gets Bismo here, you got to think it's over with 2 Ascending Penguins, and we know he's got the Bunkai in the yard.
Totally. So having a single Bunkus played here, I mean, there's a pretty good chance that Suarez gets it this turn.
Talk about. Now, that being said, we talked about a lot about the skill here. Certainly, Suarez has the skill, but what an opening hand.
Seriously. So that's the
Now,
other thing.
that being
Suarez
said,
had a great opener.
4 popcorn penguins to 2.
Yep.
There's also in the hand is more. There's some differences in these lists. Fewer what's. I think I like the fewer what's. Now, one thing that you may note is what resets the timer online. So you're going to see a lot of online players play 4 what's, and I think that just to reset the timer. So every time it comes up, this is not necessarily. You see a lot more of the people running less than 4 what's. Being our Vibes native players who know that that's why those lists include 4 what's.
That's very interesting.
But I like that. I think when we think about where should the game be right now is our native players should have an edge. That being said, I mean, many players from other games making it into the top 8 of this championships, picking up Vibes either recently or training with teams in various situations. Really, really exciting to see how this top 8 breaks down. And the handshake comes out.
There it
and
is.
Suarez wins the Jonathan and Bizbunk mirror.
An incredible game.
And he's on to the semis. I mean, the first feature match all the way through here. He won all of the side events. You got to think, look at that smile. I mean, this is a player who's played a lot of card games, but it's exciting to see him pick this up, enjoy it so much, and make it to the highest level. And I can't wait to see him at the World Championships as well.
Totally. I mean, he's just an incredible player. He's someone who, going in, and we talk a lot about also internally at the company, the distinction between a Vibes native player and some of the other players from other games. Suarez, I think, is just such a great example of this. He plays the game online, but every Vibes native player was not every, but many Vibes native players were players of other games prior to playing Vibes. And with a game that's 5 months old, the distinction is really quite subtle. It's like, the distinction on this weekend is like, Vibes native player is like, did you play 3 or 4 days ago?
We call this
whether or not you're a Vibes native player.
Native, who's not Vibes native. Well, after this weekend, I think there's a strong argument that all of these players are Vibes native, and that's what we're going to see, and that's what's exciting, too, about being on the Star City Games circuit and the greater partnership that we've reached with them, is that all of the future events are going to have at least a 1K going forward for the rest of this year on the Star City Games circuit. Star City Games vending singles as well. Lots of great things happening here. There's going to be a lot more Vibes getting played, not only for the rest of today, but the rest of this time.